Hi, everyone. Welcome to Barry McGuire's Creative Real Estate Education. As Barry would call it, Mainline Monday. Main Event Monday. Tonight we're doing a special edition of Deal or No Deal. We have, of course, Wayne Hillier with us, and she who barely needs to be named at all is Andrea is also joining us. Andrea's got an interesting interesting might not even be the right word. It's a little bit of a sad situation, and I think that it's probably really representative of things going on right now. So, hi guys, welcome.
Hi.
If you're joining us, please say so in the comments. Hurry. No, I'm kidding. But please do say, and Wayne and I have a little thing we need you to vote on today. I like this setup. The three of us side by side. Wayne likes it.
Oh, see, I prefer this.
Where are you guys? I can't see you.
Yeah, and what it is for some reason I'm very crooked when I can't. I don't worry about it.
It's like Neapolitan ice cream.
Sure. Okay. All right. So we have a deal or no deal. As what we try to do with the deal or no deal is we study a situation, we go through, do whatever analysis we can, we brainstorm potential solutions, and then we see, we can't just go no deal. That's just one thing that we can't do. So, hey, Andrea, so do you want to start just telling us how you came across this deal? We'll try to follow our 7 essential steps. So,
all right. So one of my business partners has some advertising on the We Buy Houses, and they came across this property and had a conversation with a lady over the phone. So she contacted them, and typically, as you know, when you have a seller call you, they're more motivated, and certainly this lady is motivated. So she explained that her house was currently listed with a realtor, and she thought that her agreement was only till February 1st, but it turns out it was March 1st. So she wanted some more information. So my business partner gave the basics of how an agreement for sale works, and she explained that her motivation was to get rid of her adult son. Now, this is the first time I've come across something like this. It's very sad because when my contractor and I went to the house and saw what we saw, it kind of explained the situation. And but I don't want to get too far ahead in the 7 steps. So it was like, you know, somebody advertising We Buy Houses and receiving a phone call from a motivated seller.
So it's interesting that the seller is so motivated that they're making the calls without their realtor.
Yes. So she had listed her property in mid-November, and she contacted my business partner just before Christmas. She had not had any showings at her house, and she is definitely, as we'll come to see, price point wise, it should move because it's in that first time home buyer region. It's in a good neighborhood, but it does need a significant amount of work. So to not even get a showing is kind of bad. So she was starting, I think, to panic, thinking nothing's going to happen. And the house next door to her is also listed by the same realtor. So, and it's in slightly better condition than hers. So if anything's going to sell, it'll be the neighbor's house because they're similarly priced as well, which I found was interesting. So
where is this?
This is in Red Deer.
In Red Deer, okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to show the first slide and we can just have a quick, and Andrea, you can tell us about the scenario?
Sure.
All right.
So as I mentioned, an older lady, I would put her definitely in her 70s. And she explained that she'd lived in that house for 30 plus years, who her husband, who's a veteran, has passed away a few years ago, and her adult son is still living with them. And flat out said, explained that she'd lived in that house for 30 years. I'm being financially abused. And that's kind of the first time I've come across a scenario like that. Her son was at home, not at the table with her, but in his room with his headphones on, watching X-rated stuff as we're walking by.
What?
Oh my goodness.
So anyhow, it was... yeah, it was interesting. So, so she explained to us that, you know, her and her husband had worked very hard to, you know, save for their retirement, and they had saved a substantial amount of money, and now it's all gone. And one of the reasons why she is wanting to sell is she just wants to be paying a lower payment, because she's living on her husband's pension. And she would like to move into a seniors building where, you know, her son can't go with her. So this is her way of solving the abuse rather than reporting it. She just wants to sell her house so she can get away from him. So that's kind of the scenario. And so we went and had a look at the house, and it's got, it's a single family home, 3-bed, 1 bath. The basement had kind of been partially finished, but it was more like the interior walls of the foundation had been finished, and it was basically just one open area. And the house is from the 50s. And when you look up at the ceiling in the basement, there's asbestos tiles. So that's certainly a concern. It does have a single detached garage. It doesn't even have a garage door remote system in it. And the backyard slopes towards the house. So they have done some work over time. So there were some windows that were done to it. The exterior was actually in fairly good shape. The hot water tank had been replaced. It did have an original furnace. But some of the plumbing had been replaced. The bathroom on the main floor had been renovated. But part of the reason why I think it's not selling is it's only 1 bathroom. And most families want more than 1 bathroom. And in order to put a 2nd bathroom in, the only place to do that is in the basement. And you're going to be breaking up concrete. So although outside the curb appeal for the most part is pretty good, inside it's pretty dated. So she had done a little bit of upgrades between the bathroom and some flooring, but at the end of the day, it's still a pretty dated house. So we estimated the repairs kind of between that $30,000 to $40,000 at minimum. We would have kind of replaced some of the windows in the basement because they hadn't been replaced, and would actually add additional windows because it's pretty dark down there. And you'd certainly want to put in at least 1 extra bedroom as well as a bathroom. So we had a conversation with her just at the kitchen table. I didn't want to go too in depth with my conversation, partly because she was listed with a realtor, and we very much wanted to do things the right way. So originally we were under the understanding her listing was up February 1st. So we just wanted to have a look at the house and then wait till after February 1st till her listing expired. And then we would go in with an offer. And part of the reason is we determined that really we only had $5,000 to play with. So we could either offer the realtor $5,000 or offer her $5,000. Now she has no money to move. And she actually asked, could she rent the house back from us for a few months until she could find a place to live, which we would totally be happy to do and help her out that way. But really the most we could afford to give her was $5,000 because there's not a whole lot of room there. And if we're going to put $30,000 to $40,000 into it, I still want to get a deal. So what we decided to do, because then we found out, no, the listing was till March 1st, we decided to make an offer. So my business partner called the realtor, explained that his client had contacted him and that he would like to make an offer. I drafted the offer for my business partner, who was going to put the contract in his name. So I did all the work. I drafted it up, and we just said we haven't seen her mortgage statement yet, so that would be part of the deal. Is she would have to provide us with more details on her first and second mortgage. So, and her mortgage was coming up for renewal for February 1st. So she really wanted, that was part of her motivation before signing a new mortgage agreement. She really wanted to get this all squared away. So I think that was part of the other motivation, was just to get it finalized and moving forward. So unfortunately, after our contract was sent to the realtor, there was a few words exchanged. He didn't like the fact that we were only offering $5,000 because we said, well, you decide how you're going to split it with your client. And we can go from there. And he basically was very rude and said, never contact my client again. So that's fine. But keep in mind, she contacted us. So Mr. Realtor, maybe you should make a little bit of effort to help your client. And I think that's part of the reason why they listed it at $240, is nobody's going to pay full asking price. So they probably would have entertained an offer at $225. And once you take off his $13,000 or so of realtor fees, that leaves her with a couple $1,000s. So, you know, that's the other thing. So that's kind of where we left it at. But I kind of feel bad for her because I don't think that the realtor wanted to make a good deal for her. I think he wanted a good deal for him. So that's kind of where we left it.
It's really unfortunate.
It is.
Makes you kind of feel bad for the woman. It's yeah. I mean,
I suspect it's just going to sit there, Wayne, because most people are not going to go in there and buy that house unless they have some money to renovate. And most first-time home buyers don't have that money to renovate.
Yeah. Don, I'm going to bring us back in. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Andrea, he always has to warn me before he brings us back in.
It's yeah, when you're dealing with deals like this, and you're dealing with motivated sellers, desperate sellers, whatever you want to call them, it's hard not to feel for the sellers, because they're all in horrible situations 9 times out of 10, and sometimes it's not their fault. Mm-hmm. And it's hard not to want to go and bend your, you know, what you would normally do, you know, and give them a better deal just to kind of help them out. But it is pretty cool that we have the ability, we have the strategies, we have the techniques in order to help a lot of people. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I mean, if you're just looking at it from a traditional level, it's like you said, not a lot of people are going to go and touch that.
Yeah, and I think that the realtor was kind of taking advantage of her too. And so, like I say, I suspect he didn't even present the offer to her. I don't know for sure, but that's my guess. Yeah. Yeah. And her son has an addiction that's not going to stop. And as long as they're living in the same house, she's not going to have any money, and she's not going to have any ability to save any money.
Yeah, Douglas just asked right now, did the realtor present the offer to seller?
I don't even know.
No, you don't know.
Is there is there rules around that? I know Natasha's here. Hi, Natasha. Who about if a realtor, if you write an offer, are they obligated to show it?
I think they are.
Present the offer. Mir is also here, so.
I think
Yeah, I'm not sure that he did. And the reason why is we know her motivation. She was quite happy to do seller financing for 5 years. She knew she owed what it was worth. She acknowledged the fact that the property required renovation. She just wanted out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if the realtor hadn't have been involved, we would have had a deal. So, but he didn't like the fact that we didn't want to pay him much of a commission. And, you know, here's the thing. If the house doesn't sell and she decides to list with another realtor, he's out of commission anyhow. So why wouldn't you take something over nothing? Because this is not like this is like a 5 out of 10 house or even less, right? So, yeah. I hate to say that, but I know they're supposed to show, but I don't think he did show. So, because she seemed quite happy when my business partner talked about numbers to her, you know, the $5,000 she was okay with. So in principle, there was a verbal agreement, but yes.
Yeah, and Natasha just said here, but very likely the agent has very little idea what a creative deal may entail. Yeah. He may have just seen it as, I mean, from his perspective, we can't say for certain he's a bad person or an evil person.
No.
They may have just, they don't know you and they just assume that you were trying to take advantage of them. Or it could have been a very greedy thing. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say. And I, like I say, the business contract, the purchase and sale agreement was not my name. It was in my business partner's name. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, not that he necessarily knows who I am either, but you know, like
everybody knows who Andrea is in Red.
That's why our numbers are spiking tonight.
Yes, I was kind of hoping actually the fact that we listed the lawyer that we did would have helped to lend some of that credibility. But yeah.
Douglas asked, what recourse does the listing realtor have if you present offers to the seller directly?
Well, he could go after me to pay the realtor fees.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we try to do things the right way.
Yeah.
And presenting it to the realtor. So. Because here's what I think, because there wasn't any negotiation on what we sent, that's why I feel like he didn't present it at all, even though he's supposed to, because he could have come back and said, okay, my client's good, but you know what? I need to get a little more money. 5,000 isn't going to work. Can we do 10? And but there was no negotiation. And that's why I'm suspicious of it. There wasn't even a negotiation. It was just a flat out no. And no even trying to understand. So, yeah.
And when did you say the realtor agreement was up?
March 1st, apparently.
Natasha just said as well, his listing commission would only have been half of the total, right? So $5,000 wouldn't have been too far off.
Yeah.
So it's not like he was holding out for some more money.
Right.
Just wait, Natasha again, she says, just wait until it expires, speak to the owner, and if they allow you to review listing docs, find out how long the holdover period is for the agent. Yeah, because that's a holdover period. That's
good advice, because I think, you know, most people don't understand the realtor contract that they're signing. And I think most people don't even realize there's a holdover period, or there can be.
I didn't know.
Yeah. So it all depends when you're wanting to get out of a contract and the kind of relationship that you have with a realtor. I mean, if you say to people, well, you know, I just can't afford to keep this property vacant any longer, I'll just rent it. Most realtors understand that because people can't afford to go months and months without, you know, collecting any income. And, you know, sometimes people change their mind or they decide to stay. And usually most realtors are good to give an unconditional release document. But I think that for people who don't do real estate very often, and I think probably 95% of the population, they buy 1 or 2 or maybe 3 houses in their lifetime, you know, depending on their family growing, you know, starting from a young family to, you know, moving into your retirement condo. They would have no clue. And obviously she didn't, because she was under the impression it was February 1st. And then after she talked to him, it was March 1st. So yeah.
Douglas asks, why not renegotiate the mortgage to just a first mortgage, likely below her existing interest rates, and buy for a slightly higher price and recoup costs through lower mortgage payments?
Yeah, so I did mention she did have a first and second mortgage. So we did bring that up in the real estate contract, that we would want her to go to the bank and at least see if she would be able to roll in that second mortgage into a first mortgage. So for somebody at her age, it's very unusual, I think, to have a second mortgage, because that's probably a lot higher interest rate than the first mortgage. But again, it's, I think, all part of that abuse of having a son that has an addiction and is spending all of her money on it. So, yeah.
Mir says there's enough money to pay realtor, and second most important, to see listing contracts for next 30 to 45 days after the listing expires. So please be aware of it. Well, it's a bit of a doozy.
It is.
You know, I wanted to get back to the adult son kind of not being the best anything. We ran into that situation ourselves here in Edmonton in 2019, in the summer of 2019, where a couple sold their house to get rid of the son as well.
Yeah, addiction can be a hard thing. You know, when I was back in my policing days in Vancouver, I'll never forget meeting a family who, every time he came around, because he had no contact order with his parents, he would be begging for money, and all he did was scratch and wins, because one time he won $10,000. And the waste of police resources to protect these elderly parents over an addiction of scratch and win tickets, and the screaming and the crying and the yelling. I mean, addiction is, it's interesting how it comes apart, but you know, to blow through your parents' life savings and for her to now have a second mortgage, I'm sure that property was paid off at some point. And it's just so sad to see, but you know, short of reporting it to the police, how does that ever get, you know, do people ever get arrested for that? I don't think it's very often. It's a very hard thing to prove. And you have to have, you know, a parent that's willing for their child to go to jail, and most people just aren't.
Yeah. And that's what Danielle was just saying. Should the option be to talk to social services to protect the seller? I mean, it's not really our place. And that's that line that I was talking about earlier, that like, you really do want to help people, but at the same time, there's only so much you can do. Natasha had another comment here. It was, realtors are also subject to our governing bodies making us realtors gatekeepers to fraud or money laundering. So sometimes a creative deal will take a lot of trust building, as the agent may feel it's a red flag, maybe even a letter from your lawyer vouching. The line in the realtor course for what an AFS is
it's probably 2 sentences. Maybe not taught so much in realtor school, okay?
Yeah.
And that's true, Natasha. Other than this realtor has been around for a long time. So one of my realtor friends here in Red Deer, he's been a realtor almost 40 years, and he remembers in the 80s when agreements for sale were quite common, and this fellow would be from that same generation. So, but maybe he's never come across it. It's possible. Yeah. So those are some great ideas. I love them all, Natasha. I think they're fantastic. I'm just not used to people not saying no, but like.
This is Andrea, for God's sakes.
To it. And, you know, it might have been different if I was the one on the other end of the phone and I would have said, hey, you know, if you don't think this is legit, phone up my lawyer here, you know, phone up the lawyer that we recommended for your seller, and she'll tell you we follow through on our deals. She'll tell you all the benefits of doing these types of deals. So, you know, it's a good point.
It's a good tip too for people who are struggling with building trust.
Yeah.
And on the topic of realtors, obviously it's been quite great the last couple of years. More and more realtors are getting trained up, and they're getting more creative. You know, not just helping out, you know, you got another fire? Smoke alarm. You know, helping out investors, bringing out, you know, these creative deals and getting educated. So it's been quite good. I see lots of realtors listing creative deals now. Natasha says there's nothing stopping you from going direct to the homeowner. I, as a realtor, wouldn't be allowed to, but you could approach them and try to explain your offer and see if that helps. I mean, you're not breaking their contract.
Well, I'm a licensed property manager, so I have to be careful because I'm also governed by RECA.
Okay.
I do have to be careful with that. That's why I had my business partner talk to the person on the phone. Yeah. But, you know, once I do get my realtor's license, I'm going to have to deal with it regardless. And, you know, it's all about disclosure. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Alana asked a great question. So is there anything else that could have been done or can be done?
Well, I think our plan is just to wait till February 1st when her listing expires and have a conversation. And I'm going to mute my mic and go yell at somebody for her smoke detector. Hang on.
Whoever's cooking dinner there is...
Donna, I don't know. You got thoughts?
I think we're kind of along the same lines as Charlie Bisser was talking a couple months ago. That she wanted so badly to help, but it is a business, and it has to be win-win, not just on one side.
It better be good. That's all I can say. Obviously, I'm not the one cooking tonight.
Well, I mean, we could potentially look at this differently and assume that their agreement is up, there's no holdover, and now you get an opportunity to sit down with the seller. Yes. And you got the seller and they're open to it. You know, what would you pitch to them? How would you pitch it? Would it still be the same original offer, or? Yeah,
because now that we wouldn't have a realtor involved, I think that she'd be quite happy with that $5,000 for herself. And we would just rent the house back to her, you know, for $1,000 a month for the next few months, and you know, give her time to find a place, give her son a time to find a place, and just help her move on with life. So we would be quite happy to do that. We of course would need to look at the mortgage terms, because between the first and second, if she's paying more than what we can cover off for costs for, you know, through renting the property, I would probably just do a short-term 6-month agreement for sale and renovate the property and then get the financing in my own name. And that's part of the reason too why we didn't want to pay too much for it, because if I can have, you know, some lift in value there, then that helps me to get financing without putting too much more money into it. So,
do you want to go are we allowed to go down a little bit deeper into that financing
Sure.
and how she plans to exit that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, because we
What are you
never
gonna
got to
do?
see her mortgage details, I can only surmise that in a first and second mortgage, it's not going to cash flow.
Mhm.
So, I think to do a 6-month agreement for sale for somebody at her age is probably not a bad way to go. And I think for us, if we're paying, say, $213 for it and putting in 40, so that's at $253. So we still have some $27,000. So we still basically getting it 10% under market value, but now it's rent ready and ready to go. So we might have to put in another 10% to qualify for a mortgage, but I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, and at the end, you're coming back, Donna.
Yeah.
So
I'm ready.
you're based on the new value. Are you refinancing that, or is it a brand new purchase, or how does it work?
Yeah. So at the end of the agreement for sale, I would get an appraisal as to what the value is. So even though the value is higher than what I'm paying for it, I can explain that due to the renovations. And most of the banks that I work with are okay with that. So Service Credit Union, Bank of Montreal, they're okay if I can prove that I'm putting in a bunch of renovations to increase the value, to give me the fair market value rather than the number that's actually on the contract.
It's pretty amazing. So that's very similar to like a BRRRR, but you're adding in an agreement for sale element.
Yes.
Aber.
What?
It's the amazing BRRRR.
Which is pretty neat because you don't have to do the original financing yourself.
That's right.
And a lot of times if you're doing a BRRRR, you have to do private money lending, originally for 6 months, which is a lot more expensive. We're talking 10, 15%.
Mm-hmm.
But in this scenario, the seller would carry that.
Yeah.
So, and that's the low interest, assuming that she's got a decent mortgage rate. You're probably sitting around 2 or 3% interest.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, interest rates are so low right now. So we just had one of our agreement for sale people give us a 2-year extension at 2%. So that's pretty fantastic.
That's amazing. What's everybody else think? Viewers, do you guys have anything to add to this? Would you recommend doing it a different way, or do you agree with Andrea? Assuming that you're able to talk to the seller in the right way, without ethically, I guess. And would you make the same offer? Would you make it a deal? Donna, do you have any other thoughts while we're waiting?
I'm looking at Doug Robertson's comment there. Can you provide her with an option to purchase at $213 and wait out the listing?
That's a good question, and maybe Natasha can answer that better than I can, because technically you're still somewhat making an offer. I mean, it's just an option, but while the property's still listed, I don't know if a seller can make another contract. I don't know if Natasha is still on. Lori, so no, my business partner is not licensed. That's why I had his name on the contract and have him do all the talking. I didn't negotiate anything. I didn't talk about any numbers. I just kind of went with my contractor and said, we're here to look at the house and estimate renovations. So I'm kind of walking a fine line. So as an example, today I went and looked at another house, and I just said to my business partner, tell them your property manager is coming to have a look on your behalf. And that went just fine. So, so I think I'll be using that from now on.
Yeah. Natasha mentioned that, any offers that come in would apply to the agent.
Yeah.
Alana says you're the boss.
Well, thank you. I try.
I got here late. How can I watch from the beginning? Well, when it's over, you can watch. Or Donna, are you doing a watch party tomorrow?
I'm doing a watch party tomorrow. But there's also the option, isn't there, just sliding the timeline across to the beginning and just starting it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't lock the videos up where you can't ever watch them again. You can watch them as many times as you want. Just scroll up through the group, and lots of videos from Mondays and Thursdays back a couple months. Okay. Does anyone else have any thoughts? I mean, like, well, where are we at? Where are we at for time? We're a little early. I mean, would anyone else do this differently, or do you agree with Andrea, or do you? Yeah, deal. Can you make it a deal? Post below.
I know it's not a typical one because we don't really have the math to work on, right? I can only presuppose, and so sometimes elderly people give you a little bit, but not a whole lot, and I get that, right? Because they're phoning somebody they don't know. So,
I mean, looking back at these numbers again, I mean, those are some really good numbers. I'd definitely make that a deal. I mean, that's the kind of deal that I'd want to do. Based on your strategy of getting it under financing for $5,000, doing a little bit of renovations and then increasing the value significantly, refinancing it, getting most of your money out, keeping it as a cash flowing property, because I'm assuming based on those numbers in Red Deer, that should be cash flow relatively well.
Yeah, so that type of house would probably rent for $1,650 a month.
So a couple $100
should be able to cash flow on it. That's no problem.
Is there an issue with that, with the sloping towards the house, the backyard?
Yeah, I saw that there.
So we looked in the furnace room, which backs onto the backyard, and it didn't smell musty or anything, but there's hardly any lights down there. So it's something I would certainly want to take a better look at for sure. So it's just something to be concerned about, because every time you have a home inspection, they always like to mention the home inspectors always like to manage and talk about the slope, right? Well, this one's like way up here. It's way up. So it's got slope. Yes. But if it hasn't been an issue over the last 70 years, it's probably okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Donna, what do you think?
It looks like it's been settled. We have to revisit this one March 1st.
That'd be really cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
We could do a follow-up on this.
I'll do my best.
Yeah. Because I really hope you get it, and I really hope that you solve this woman's problem, and I really hope the gentleman gets the help that he needs, and he doesn't become too much of an issue for his mom. And let's just hope it's that's that and nothing more.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to give up that easy.
No, it just goes to show you never know what kind of situation you're going to come across, and yeah, it's just not the typical deal. It's not the typical motivation, and you just don't know what you're going to run into. And sometimes realtors are open, and sometimes they're not. And you just got to roll with it and do your problem solving best that you can.
It's normally a husband or a wife or an uncle or a dad that's holding the deal back. Yeah, you're right. This is very different. Okay. Well, Brian says I think that's a good deal, and I agree too. That's something that I definitely do. Anything where I can get into a deal for for little money and yeah, that sounds great, and it's cash flowing.
Yeah.
You're still alive. Good luck, Andrea. Yeah, let's do a follow-up. I think a follow-up would be great.
Yes.
Now the questions are coming in, right?
Okay.
I am still thinking of the vulnerable seller. We're responsible of tipping social services in case of doubted abuse. Yeah, I mean, there's all different kinds of abuse. That I was tiptoeing around that. I hope it's just financial. That's a horrible thing to say, but I really hope that there's nothing else going on as well.
Well, she certainly didn't whisper it to to us with her son just down the hall.
Oh, she's just yelling it from
She didn't yell it, but
my ungrateful son.
He was distracted, so other things. But anyhow.
Oh man.
If you missed the first part of the video, you'll definitely have to rewind.
Yeah. My God. Deb asked, I wonder how tricky it would be to connect with her with an elder advocate.
I've never heard an elder
Never heard of that either.
advocate. Thank you, Deb. Yeah.
Doug, you're gonna have to watch it. Sorry, buddy. And Natasha again, I think you can make it a deal and go direct to the seller from your partner. Realtor would have to follow the seller's lawful instructions, but likely seller needs hand holding for sure. She probably doesn't have the confidence to do that one. I would push on this, and if they want to, then try to get an agent on board by trust building actions and play into their ego.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, Donna, closing thoughts?
I wanted to announce that we've set a date for our rent-to-own focus workshop.
Ooh, you did?
Saturday, wait, like you guys don't know. Of course you guys know. But thank you for playing along so well. Saturday, March 6th. Watch, we'll be talking more about that for sure. But I did want to let you guys know.
March 6th, you say?
Yeah. There you go. Oh, look at that. Boom.
Awesome.
It just appeared by magic.
See, you knew.
Like that.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much. You always got a store of interesting scenarios and deals to talk about.
Yeah.
Good to have another face on for our Monday main event.
Yes. Happy to come back. I'm still doing deals all the time.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for participating. Stay tuned Thursday. Barry is going to be talking corporations. So some people might be interested in that. Not waiting.
Yes. Well, there's a few people asking.
I'm sure a lot of people are.
What?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, also Wednesday, Barry will be partnering with Mackenzie Wilson, sorry on the pen, with of Alberta Landlord Community for a special edition. I know one of the topics he's going to be talking about is title fraud.
Awesome.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. That's on Wednesday in the Alberta Landlord Community Group?
Yep, 7 p.m. I'll be posting about that, I'm sure, too.
Great.
And Donna, just don't forget, you're a little off center. Just you might want to move over a little bit. All right. See you guys later.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Bye.